That was mortgages, and I just want to talk about remortgages now, okay? So what happens at the end of your fixed rate term is that you're offered a remortgage. And all it basically means is that you're changing your deal. So I don't know if you remember me saying that usually when you're on a fixed rate, at the end of that fixed rate, they might say, okay, your price for the 2 years is, let's just say for argument's sake, £300. But at the end of that 2 years, it's going to go up to £500. You might say to yourself, I don't want it to go up to £500. So at the end of that 2 years, I'm going to look and see if I can find a better deal somewhere else. That's what remortgaging is. So generally what happens is at the end of the 2 years, your bank will say, okay, I know that I said it's going to go up to £500, but if you stay with us, we'll let you pay, instead of £300, you could pay £295. So they'll give you a slight discount so that you stay where you are. However, what most people do is they will then go and seek out a broker and say, can you get me a better deal? And more often than not, the broker will come back and say, actually, I've got a deal for you, which is £150. So it's cheaper than what the bank's going to give you. But what the flip is to that is that you then need to go through the whole mortgage process again. Whereas when you're with the bank, you just literally click a button and just say, yep, I accept, and that's the end of it. So some people will stay with their bank just so it's effortless. They don't really need to do anything. But if you know that you're somebody who's maybe trying to maximize on what you're paying, or you might want to pull some money out, which we'll talk about in a second, then it's more advisable to go with the broker and go with the remortgage deal. So, okay, so I just mentioned about pulling out money. Now, this is one of the really great things about property, is that properties rise quite quickly, and depending upon where you are in the country, you know, you can really maximize and make money quite quickly off the back of that. So, so what I mean by this then is, I put a little example on the slide actually, but let's just say, for argument's sake, I bought a property for 100 grand. If I, after the 2 years, let's just say I went to get it valued and it had gone up to 150 grand, it now means that I have 50 grand worth of equity in my property. So it's stuck in the property though, this is the thing. So you might say to yourself, well, how do I get hold of the 50 grand if it's stuck in the property? So there's really two main ways that you can get hold of that money. One is to sell the property for the 150 grand and then keep the 50 grand, which will be your profit. But what's more advisable is to do a remortgage. So this is what I was explaining about pulling money out. And when you do a remortgage, they won't let you take out the whole 50 grand, but you'll be able to take out a portion of that 50 grand, which potentially you can then use towards another property. And so really, once you bought your first property, if you know that you want to buy more, then this is really the way to go about doing it in a quick way. So any questions? Cool.
Yeah, if you sell your property,
yes,
do you have to pay tax on the equity?
You do, yeah. So this is one thing with this government, is that there's always taxes for everything.
Okay, no matter what.
Yeah, so I think it's called, what is it called? Capital gains tax, I believe it's called. So when you sell your property, yes, you will need to pay some tax on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions? All right, I'll keep going. Okay, so I spoke a bit about mortgages on the last slide. I just now wanted to talk about how you go about getting a mortgage. So you really need three main things in order to be able to get a mortgage, okay? The first one being a proof of income. So this just means you need a job of some kind, or you need to be having an income that's regularly coming into your account that a bank can see. So that's the first thing. And the reason why they say that is so that they can calculate your affordability. And all affordability means is their amount of money that they believe you can afford to pay for a property. and they're going to calculate that based on what you earn, okay? So if you've got a job, great. If you're self-employed, then what they will ask you for is 2 years of accounts. So if you are someone who's self-employed but you don't pay tax, which a lot of people kind of run from the tax man, then you would need to have on paper what you earn, basically, okay? So if you was getting into property and you knew you didn't have a proof of income, that's probably the first place you want to start, okay? More often than not, they will only ask you to see 3 months worth of pay slips. So even if you knew that you just wanted to get hold of a property, you know, I might be teaching you bad habits here, but if you just wanted to get hold of a property, you know, you might just get a job for 6 months just so they could see that you've got that income coming in, and then go back to whatever you was doing before to make your money. But they need to see that on paper, you know, you've got pay slips coming in and you've got a salary coming into your account, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing then is a deposit or some equity. So I think I'm going to talk about this on some of the slides coming, but basically, generally, if you've got a residential mortgage, they will ask you for a minimum usually of about 10%. And I'm saying a lot of probablys and usuallys because at the moment they're changing so much stuff. And again, a lot because of COVID as well. So they're offering better deals or worse deals in some instances. But if we just work on kind of what the general rules are usually, and just know that there's lots of deals around at the moment, okay? But so as I mentioned, for a residential mortgage, the general rule is a 10% deposit. And for a buy-to-let mortgage, the general rule is a 25% deposit, okay? So the deposits can be quite big. Or away from that, you can use your equity. So just like I mentioned on the last slide, if you had that 50 grand in equity, you can offset that towards another property if you needed to. There's also lots of deals around at the moment where, let's say even your parents had equity in their property, you might be able to offset their equity towards your property and stuff like that. So again, lots of stuff around at the moment. The banks use something called LTV, which stands for loan to value, and it really talks about how much they allow you to borrow. Again, I've got an example on the next slide, so I'll show you in more detail what I'm talking about then. So proof of income, deposit or equity, and the last thing that you need is some decent credit. And this is so you can get access to the best deals, okay? So I don't know if you guys are aware of what your credit score is at all. I know when I was young, I didn't really pay attention to that at all. And I should have done, and I wish I did. And so if you haven't already, or you don't have any idea what your credit score is, these are 3 of the main agencies, credit score agencies. And sign up, like some of these are free. So Experian is free, and I think Credit Karma is free as well. I think with Equifax, you can get a free report, but then if you want to get the in-depth stuff, you pay a monthly fee for it. But what it would do is it will show you kind of any credit you've got, what your credit score is. And in order for you to get the best deals from a mortgage point of view, you really want to be anything from good to excellent. And there's lots of ways to manipulate your score and stuff as well. So that might be another session for another day if anyone wants more information. But just remember those 3 things are the main things, okay? So what I'm going to talk about on the next slide then is how they calculate your affordability, and also the loan to value, how that works, okay?
Hi guys, it's ZR. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget, share. You don't want to miss out.